Well, hello, and welcome to the continuation of this roll top desk project. This project was abandoned about 3 years ago. Sometimes things just happen, life gets in the way. I had gotten about this far with the project, and then we kind of stored it improperly in the garage. It was a cold, damp environment, and some things warped, some things twisted, and some things had to be redone. So we're going to continue where we left off. So far we had the bottom carcass pretty well completed with the writing boards on both the left and right sides, and as you saw, this center pencil drawer and the drawers on both sides. The bottom drawer was actually a file drawer that was made to look like two drawers to match the left side. Where we finished was routing the track for the Tambor with this 9/16 bit. That's as far as we got, and then it was forgotten. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and we're going to start with the Tambor. First we're going to start milling this lumber, and in our desk we're going to make it about 51 inches long, and each slat is going to be 1 15/16 inches wide. We've got to mill the lumber down to 1/2 inch, and the kit that we're using for the router bits is this Tambor router kit from Amana Tools. The router bits were fine, everything worked good, but the instructions were a bit lacking. If you set up the router bits the way they initially told you, you were going to be taking too much of a cut with the very large burr. It was a lot of trial and error setting the burrs up and getting them to work with one another. But a little bit of practice and we got some pretty good results. The instructions here for a bread box, you can throw those away. And I don't know who else has a CD player, but I don't. So this is the kit that we used to create the router slats that would come together to form our Tambor. Worked pretty good. I'll show you how we started. And as we begin to mark the lumber to cut to length, this exposed the second problem that I had created. And that was with the blade we were using on the table saw. I've been using a Forest Woodworker 2 blade. Why? Because everybody else did. And it seems every time I had to return it to be sharpened, 4 or 5 teeth had to be replaced. The blade just didn't seem to hold up well for me, and I felt it was time for a change. So here we're going to change out that blade. I ran over to Home Depot, and we're going to try the Diablo blade. I've heard some real good things about it, read some good reviews online, so we're going to put that in and give it a whirl. At the end of this cutting process, I'll let you know how I think it held up in comparison to the Woodworker 2, which I was led to believe was the standard. It's a great blade, but in my hands I've had a lot of problems. So let's see how this one works. Well, we finished ripping down all the boards to width, and now they need to be planed down to a 1/2 inch. That's what the instructions call for with the router kit that we're using. So let's get over to the planer and get them down to size.
few moments later.
Well, now we're going to start to set up the router. In my opinion, this is probably the most critical part in this whole process. These router bits should be set up precisely and double checked. Any mistakes here will not allow the tambor slats to fit together properly. One precaution with this large router blade is that don't set it to take off the maximum cut on the first pass. That's way too much material to hog out all at once. It works better when we do a shallow pass, then reset the fence for a deeper or final cut. So here's what happens. We're going to pass the stock 8 times. 2 times on each side for a shallow cut, 2 times on the other side for a shallow cut, and then reset the fence for a deeper cut. That's another 4 cuts. So we're actually going to push that stock through the thick blade 8 times to get our final dimension. I can't emphasize enough to tighten that fence so that there's no movement whatsoever. This is kind of a crummy fence, and it doesn't really tighten that well, so you've got to be real careful that there is no movement. Any movement at all will cause an inaccurate cut. And of course, feather boards are all important. I ended up not using this orange one. I had a smaller one, but it actually put more pressure and held the stock tighter.
One eternity later.
Well, it's quite a bit of routing, but this is the finished product on the right side, and this is the shallow cut, the first pass. You can see the difference in depth of cut. This will give us the dimensions that we need to rip down the middle and make the slats. Well, we're back at the table saw for a pretty important cut. The next burr that we're going to use is going to be the little keyhole burr. And in order to take some of the strain off of that burr, we need to make a kerf cut down the exact middle of the edge. This will relieve the strain on the burr by removing some of the material ahead of time. It's 1 pass on each side, and we like to have it dead center in the stock. You can see what it looks like after a pass, and this will make it a lot easier for the other burr.
Years later.
Well, we finally finished that, and as you can see, the keyholes are done and they're down the center of the stock. Our next step now is to rip this in half and create two pieces. So here we're back at the table saw. This in half. This is going to give us two pieces that will look like that. And as you can see, for the tambor, they'll slide together. Just enough room in there. Well, we're ready now for some assembly. And as you can see, the slats just fit together, one after the other, and hopefully I have enough wood, but I think you realize by now I don't. Besides ruining some wood by improper storage and by not calculating properly, I ran short. The wood is on order. It should be here in a week. We'll continue and finish the tambor. I need to get this project completed, and our next step is to be working on the cubbies in the back of the desk. It really does work out pretty well. It's a great kit. The Amana kit is good, better than gluing these slats onto a piece of canvas. With the escape groove that's cut into the tambor groove, you can service the tambor at any time. It slides pretty easily, and I wish I had the wood to finish it, but I don't. Next video, I'll have the tambor completed. If you'd like to see it, like and subscribe, click on the bell notifications, and you'll see the tambor finished. And we'll be starting on the cubbies for the back of the desk. I hope you enjoyed it. I would never try doing a project like this again in a makeshift wood shop. I know most of us work out of our garages, but it just compounds the problem. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. We'll show you the rest of this tambor.